but 743-6124. Thanks. Well, sometimes you call a guest, and they don't pick up their phone, and such is the case with Unicoi Mayor Johnny Lynch. I hate that. But I have left my number, and so perhaps he is just somewhere away. Perhaps he is actually indisposed or behind the wheel of his car and doesn't want to pick up the cell phone until he can pull over. Or maybe he is in the middle of relieving himself. Who knows where Johnny Lynch is right now. But we do have the shout out to him. And we will be getting on here. And so he could be calling any moment now. And until then, I'll have to tell you a few things that are going to be saving until 1:45 or there for. And one of them, I guess, a lot of people have been talking about, especially with the Olympics, and admittedly gymnastics is not a Winter Olympic sport, but just the horrible circumstance that has cost Michigan State so much of their reputation. And of course, we're talking about the Larry Nassar situation. I mean, literally 150 accusers coming out that he had sexually assaulted young women, abusing his power as a doctor, very Jerry Sandusky-ish. Did talk a little bit, why does there seem to be more attention to Jerry Sandusky than Larry Nassar? And I do think that one of the reasons why is that the circumstance is simply you have gymnastics and women's sports instead of football. Football gets more attention. And plus, the Sandusky scandal was initial. I am going to take a chance here, and I think, do I have Mayor Johnny Lynch on the phone?
Hey, how's it going?
I am doing well. You're on 1420 NBC Sports Radio, Tri-Cities and Tri-Cities Sports Now. Mayor Lynch, it's a pleasure to have you on the phone here. Talk a little bit about what's going on with the Buffalo Valley Golf Course. I know you've been conducting a lot of town halls and trying to find out what's going to be taking place next month when, I guess, now the town of Unicoi looking to sell or lease, or what right now is the status of the Buffalo Valley Golf Course. Can you tell us that, Mayor Lynch?
Okay, well, basically, our board wants to help out all that we can in this situation. This closing of this golf course, as everyone knows, will have some economic impact on the community, and as well as an impact on some of the actual people that use the golf course. So it is something that is of concern to us, and we formed a committee, which is a combination of Board of Mayor and Alderman members and members in the community to get together and do some fact-finding things to just see just exactly what could we do or could we play a part in this thing. And this group has met several times, I understand, and they have come up with different plans on how you could run the golf course and cost-cutting ideas, things like that. The next meeting, official meeting, will be Thursday, and we're hoping that this committee could come together with some kind of a recommendation for a plan to where we can hopefully keep the golf course open, but with the understanding that the town of Unicoi can only do so much, and we are a small town. We're not really in position to get into the golf course business, nor are we in position to get into the sewer plant business either. So there's got to be some kind of a plan that can work for everyone. And hopefully they can come up with something. If they do, then, of course, we will make that recommendation to the Board of Mayor and Alderman at the call meeting on the 5th of February, and hopefully have some sort of resolution or something that we can either vote for or against.
Well, If I could ask you, Mayor Lynch here, and I want to mention people who may not be familiar, there is actually a sewage plant on the Buffalo Valley property, and that's actually been something of a bone of contention. If the property was sold, who would operate the wastewater plant, this sort of thing. And I guess I should point that out. I've read in the paper some ideas on people, Kent Bradley, the owner of the Buffalo Valley Apartments, also some talk maybe Irwin Utilities. But let me just look at that wastewater plant. First of all, it sounds like an odd location, a golf course, to have a wastewater plant. How did this get built there? How long has that been on that property?
Well, that wastewater facility has been there for over 40 years.
Okay.
And it goes way back. And of course, I'm sure it was all meant well when they did this thing. The problem is that the town of Unicoi does not own a sewer system, so to speak. We bought and installed sewer lines in certain parts of the town of Unicoi, but we gave that to Irwin Utilities. So Irwin Utilities basically has the sewer capabilities out here. When we're not in that kind of business, so it just doesn't fit for us to be taking on a sewer plant, even a small facility like that. Now, that one individual out there that owns the apartments,
Kent Bradley, yeah.
Yeah, Mr. Bradley did offer his help, and that's something that I hope that they're researching now to see if he can do it and what it would cost him and what kind of credentials he's going to have to be able to qualify to run a sewer facility, because that comes under TDEC, and there's certain rules and regulations that they've got to abide by. So we'll have to see if he can do that, if he can get certified, and I'm sure he's going to want to know, the specifics on it, on what it's going to cost, and so on. So hopefully they're looking into that part of it. And that's the whole idea, is to get these folks to work together. We're hoping that everyone can work together and come up with some kind of solution.
I have to tell you, I'll have to contact Ken Bradley and ask him what he is intrigued by the wastewater facility. It's tough for me to believe that, oh yes, I want a cesspool. That sort of thing to me, I can't necessarily imagine it, but I can understand why people would want that property, because it is a golf course. And also Michael Baloff, who owns the Tri-Cities Otters soccer team and the Johnson City indoor soccer facility next to the course, has expressed interest in buying the land and turning it into a facility of soccer fields, of lacrosse fields, of rugby fields. Now, you've mentioned here in this interview you prefer that Buffalo Valley, if possible, be kept as a golf course. Why golf and not the soccer, the rugby, the lacrosse, sports that do seem to be growing? Why would you be in preferential to keep it as a golf course?
Well, number one, we don't have to go through any more, jump through any more hoops. I don't object to having a soccer facility there by any means. Don't read me wrong on that.
Mm-hmm.
But this thing was developed around a golf course,
mm-hmm.
and the input that I'm getting from the citizens, and I have to represent my citizens out here. The input that I've gotten from the citizens so far is very few of these people are in favor of a soccer facility as opposed to the golf course. And so I feel like that I'm more than anything speaking for my community when I say that I prefer a golf course. If what I suggested is that they come together with a plan and a plan B, to where do know that there are park and recreation grants that are available out there, and there could be a lot of things. There is some great potential in taking the property and using it for something like that. But that's not the first choice of the folks that live out there, and the information that I've gotten right now. They want a golf course.
Now, I understand they're afraid that their property values, people who have homes around the golf course, might decrease if there was alternative use, such as like rugby fields or something there. But why would that be? I mean, why would property be more? And from what the Johnson City Press is reporting, yeah, there might be around the golf course, a home is averaging about $250,000. Homes not on golf courses, comparable in the area, valued maybe about $2,000 less. But why is it important for property values, I guess, that it would remain a golf course and not an alternative athletic field? Can you explain that?
No, I can't explain that. And number one is I don't have the correct figures on the value of the land around the golf course and the value of the land not, or the homes not on a golf course. I don't. What could I ask you? Where you got that information?
Well, Johnson City Press, and let's see, are dated. I've got this right now. The article Saturday, January 27th, and from what I've highlighted here, and I can read this from the article, which is written by let's see here, Sue Gwyn Lang, and if I can quote right here, it is, let's see here, that committee member Wayne Lewis told the crowd that filled the Unicoi Visitor Center, which I assume is where you hold your meetings, conference room for Thursday's committee meeting, his review of the values of homes surrounding the golf course and comparable homes elsewhere in the county did not show a large variance. Lewis said he found the difference between a home on the course assessed at $249,000, I'm saying $250,000 just to round it, and a comparable home located elsewhere was about $2,000. So that's the case, or that's what Gwyn writes there.
Okay,
yes.
That's where Mr. Lewis got that information, correct?
Yes, Lewis.
Okay.
And so Wayne Lewis, committee member, and that's
well, that is something else that they need to address, and I'm glad that was brought up in the meeting. But I don't know. I don't know the answer to that one. I feel like probably there would be some decrease in the value of the property where it's not a golf course. How much it would be, I would not want to speculate on that. But I do feel like it would have some impact.
Well, let me also ask you this: if Balloff would get his way, and let's say that it turns into soccer fields and such, he mentioned that the hotel that is on the property, I guess it's more of a motel, the old Budget Inn, he'd like to renovate that, and then, as one might say, rent it out to teams that might be coming into the area to play soccer, rugby, what have you. But my question is here, I've got to people are living at that hotel right now. I think it's like $200 a week, or, there are residences at the hotel. As a mayor, what would you do for the people that live in the Budget Inn if Balloff was able to buy the property and wanted to renovate it? Because I'm seeing people that might be potentially removed from their homes.
Well, that's a good question. When you get into a discussion like this down there, you have all sorts of people making all sorts of claims. The gentleman that claimed that he could buy the golf course and then buy the hotel, that would take it out of our hands. If that happens, there's not a whole lot that I think that we would do in that. That would be going into private ownership, and what became of the hotel will be up to the person that bought it.
All right. That's the case with that. Now, the other thing I wanted to ask you here, Mayor Lynch, is I know you've talked about how you're a mayor of a small town, Unicoi. And so, running a golf course probably not in the best interest financially of a small town like Unicoi. But you've said that the town's finances would probably limit the offer for a golf course to about $500,000 compared to an assessment of $2.7 million for the property. That seems to be kind of short, not getting enough money for the property. $500,000 if it's valued for $2.7 million. Why would you be willing to take such a price for the property?
Well, in the first place, I was speaking hypothetically, and when I talk,
Okay.
you need to understand that anytime we're talking about any kind of offer or any kind of decision like that, that's not my decision. It's a board decision. So if hypothetically, I said the most we probably could go would be that. That doesn't mean that the board's going to offer $500,000 for anything. That means that what I said is that we can't afford to do a whole lot out there. We could possibly purchase the property and use it for park and recreation purposes. There's a lot of ideas, like I said before. But it would, it would probably, there's people that make the statement that it's an opportunity for the town. Well, it is an opportunity. It could be property that the town could put to good use, I'm sure. I don't have any problem with that. All this boils down to how much we could put into this venture and how much some of these other people could put into the venture. So far, the only thing that I've heard at the meetings is how we can go in and do this or do that and put the skin into the game when I don't have anybody else offering to put any skin into the game. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes. Yeah. No one has come up or contacted you or the city about, golf course. Yeah, I'd like to lease the property. You haven't received an offer or any inquiries about that as of yet?
That is correct.
Okay, and it's, I guess, February 7th is when you have to actually, you're going to have a meeting at the Unicoi County Visitor Center, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong about that, but this Thursday, what time?
5:30.
5:30, okay, and then on the 7th, a decision must be made on what the city is going to do, or should I say the town of Unicoi, because you're about 3,000 people, that's a town, with the property. We've been talking to Johnny Lynch. There's one last question. How did this all come about this way? I mean, I know the course has been closed since January 1st, but, Buffalo Valley, it's always seemed to be there for as long as I can remember. How did we get into a situation where the Buffalo Valley Golf Course actually was closed, and now we're in a situation of, is it going to be a golf course? Is it going to be a soccer field? What do we do with the wastewater plant? How did this all come about?
Well, Johnson City the folks at Johnson City have complained about losing money on the golf course for quite a while now.
Read about that, yeah.
And they threatened to close it down and all, but they didn't follow up on it in the past, and so I think it finally just had to get to a point where they just couldn't do it anymore, and so they finally made the decision to drop the hammer. We're greatly disturbed by this. Ideally, I think I said at the beginning of the meeting, ideally, I'd love to see someone just come by the golf course and keep the golf course running and keep things going. And I might add that I would love to see someone buy the hotel and redo the hotel and everything go on. But it doesn't look like that's going to happen so far. There's still a few days left, and miracles can happen,
Mm-hmm.
And that would please us tremendously. We didn't ask to get into the golf course business. We were asked by citizens in the community, and I will say that it's not just citizens that live out there on the golf course. There's a lot of citizens that have approached me that live elsewhere out in the community. So everyone's concerned about this. Everyone's really paying close attention to this. And them at the meeting is that if you got the money to buy a Ford, you're not going to get out there and buy a Porsche. So we can only do what we can do here within the town and keep ourselves on stable ground. But we are absolutely willing to help out all that we can. And like I say, everything that comes down on this is a board decision. And so you can't go by everything that I say. My feelings may not be the same as some of the other board members. So please understand that when I say this. But personally, I would love to be able to help out in this if we can. I don't see anything wrong with the town purchasing land if they can get it at a good price. And the kind of money we're talking about would be, I'm sure, a low ball figure. But that would be probably all that we could probably do unless the board comes up and just reverses what I just said. They may come up and say, well, we can do that. We can do more than that. But again, that's all up to the board. And but I feel like that it's not a bad idea for a town to purchase land, because especially a town that's only 22 or 23 years old, we've got to think about the future. And part of the future is going to include having to acquire some property for various uses. So that, you have to think on those terms too. And purchase of the property is, in my opinion, not a bad idea. It's just that we're not in a position where we can run a golf course or run a sewer facility for that matter.
That and the size of Unicoi, I can see that as well. Hey, Mayor Johnny Lynch, I want to thank you for telling us this, and certainly people, interested citizens, can go to the Unicoi County Visitor Center right there off the interstate, 5:30 Thursday, when they're going to have a meeting. Comes up one way or the other, a decision made on February 7th. I want to thank you for joining me here on Tri-Cities Sports Now. I do think that everybody's best interest, I mean, I am concerned about the people who live in a hotel, obviously, or motel, as the case may be, but also, you'd want to see continued source of visitors, revenue, that sort of thing coming into Unicoi and the area, whatever it may be. So, Johnny Lynch, thanks for joining me here on Tri-Cities Sports Now. We will stay in touch. And a few final thoughts here to close out the show, Tri-Cities Sports Now.
No problem. No problem.
Yeah.
Good to talk to you.
Well, you too.